here. My name is Chris. This is Scott. We are your hosts for the Action Lab, your premier sports entertainment talk show. We are doing some Sunday Night Football. We are wrapping that up, and we are getting into the other games of the day. We have a lot to talk about, and we're going to be starting with some of these other matchups here. So you guys are just in time. We're about to start unloading on some takeaways for every single game that took place this morning and this afternoon. So, guys, if you're new, hit that follow button. Make sure you tell us who your team is and where you're from, so we can make sure that, we understand who you are, and we can invite you into our community and have a great time. There's a lot of little groups of different fan bases in our community. So, guys, let's get after. Let's talk some football. Let's talk some sports. Report me, please. GG. Let's go. How we doing? Report me. Who day? Hey, we're talking about Bengals right off the top.
We're jumping into the Bengals right away.
Hey, Shelly guy, what's up? How we doing? Welcome. All of you guys that are new. Eric, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate that. All the love. Sonic Series, I'm the man. Oh, good to know.
Perfect.
Good to know. Well,
I like that you just put it out there. Like, I'm a man. All right.
Well, and tell us your team too. Let us know who you follow, because that'll be fun too. In a glass case of emotion right now. Sorry, Devil Doc. I mean,
I hear you, Devil.
I know your boys gave you a rough product tonight, but it's a tough.
And then try to tease you kind of a little bit at the end and get you excited, only to let you down again. So,
all right, Scotty. Let's dive into these matchups here. We have a lot to get to, so let's jump in and let's get an idea of what everybody is thinking on these games. First one, Falcons at Bengals. Now, this one was one of my bets of the week, and it hit, and my bet was the over in this one, 47.5. Easy enough. This was one of the more substantial feel-good bets of my week. So, had a good feeling about it. Ended up being on the over end. Bengals ended up starting out fast in this one. Normally the Falcons start out fast and kind of slow down. Falcons started out really slow. Bengals started out fast, and there was no turning back from there. There wasn't really anything else what the Falcons can do once they went down. But Bengals get the win in this one. Scotty, what are some takeaways?
I mean, saying they came out fast to the Bengals is like an understatement. I think Joe Burrow, in early second quarter, already had 260 yards passing.
Yeah.
He was hitting Taj Boyd. He was, Jamar Chase on a deep touchdown. Their first 4 of their drives, touchdown, Chris. They looked like the Bengals we remember from last year when they were that explosive offense. Joby B, 500 yards. I think he almost got to 500. Not quite. Unless there was, I guess maybe if you include rushing yards in there, because I did see him run the ball a couple times and get pumped with it. But why did I say Taj Boyd? I know it's Tyler Boyd. My fault. For the Falcons, they just don't. They don't trust Mariota. They're very, very basic on offense. They hand the ball off. They kind of try and beat you in the trenches. Like, Mariota was 8 of 13 today, Chris. And that's when you're down. So you're losing. Typically, your quarterback's going to then start throwing 40, 50 times even. And Mariota, 13. So Atlanta's been a huge surprise coming into this game, just being 3-3 in general, but could not keep up with the onslaught of the first half from the Bengals. And Bengals certainly had their best offensive performance they've had thus far this year.
I mean, Joe Mixon, he got 58 yards and a touchdown. Burrow ran for 20 yards and a touchdown. Then he threw for 3. So, I mean, he was just having a field day. But yeah, Boyd, 155. Chase, T. Higgins, all of those guys. When you're saying you want your guys to peak, if you can get that kind of production each week, man, you're in good shape. That's a great offense if they're all clicking exactly the way they did today. So, hey, big ups. They got a huge win against Atlanta. Atlanta is, still they can put up points, right? They've proven that they can hang with some teams, but no turnovers in this game, though. Pretty clean game. It was just too hard. 14 points in the first, 14 points in the second for Cincinnati, and 7. No one scored in the fourth quarter. So 35-17. This one was in the books. I got to celebrate the over bet early, so it felt good. I didn't have to sweat this one out. So there you go. What else do we have in the chat? Joey B, 500 yards, says Football Wife. Yeah, he crushed. What else? This team lives and dies by TJ. What else? He's more important to the Steelers than some QBs to their teams, like Dak.
And then they're just jumping down. No, by the way, Rush Sanity is back. It is not. It is not back. There's no Rush Sanity.
No Rush Sanity. We're not doing
That's Rush Insanity. Okay.
Hey, Rush. Cooper Rush is off the boards here. We're not talking. Cooper Rush is done. The Rush Sanity's over. Scott and Chris, have a great show. Take care. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, Dr. J. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. J.
It was incredible seeing you back in here. Let's all give Dr. J a nice goodbye and good night. Next up, all right, Scotty, we got an AFC North battle in this one. Browns at Ravens. Now, I posted this in our Discord. If you're not in our Discord, join our Discord. We're talking about the games throughout the day with all of you guys. Whenever we're not live, we all love talking the game. So exclamation point Discord in the chat, and you can join in on our Discord. Exactly. There you go, Reckoning. Thank you. I posted this. Is there any situation where the Ravens don't let things choke in the fourth quarter? They almost choked this one away like they did all the other games. And the Browns creeped back in with a couple big throws downfield, got him back into the mix here, and this game could have gone the Browns' way easily. But the Ravens somehow hold on and win this game by 3 when they honestly almost didn't have any business winning this game either, given the fact they give up so many fourth quarter leads. It's crazy. But this is what the Ravens team that we've come to know this season. Scotty, what were you thinking in this game? This one is insane.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The Ravens tried to give this one up again. Neither team was, great on offense. There wasn't a lot of pass game. Speaking of numbers that are bizarre, like Lamar Jackson completed 9 passes today, 9 of 16 for like $120. And then, they get one deep down the right field at the end of the game. Cleveland does to get a huge first down in Baltimore territory. And then for one brief second, you think they take the lead on a pass down the right side to Amari Cooper. They call Amari for offensive pass interference. He pushed off a little bit. Sometimes that gets called, sometimes it doesn't. It did here, and then Brissett did his best. Brissett and coughed up the game. So, after the first couple weeks of the season, I thought, in the AFC, Baltimore was my clear number 3 team. Clear number 3 behind Kansas City and Buffalo in the tiers of the AFC, standings. And I'm just not seeing it. Lamar hasn't looked that comfortable. He's been under 60% completion percentage in the last 3 games. He's running around with his head cut off back there, not knowing what to do with the ball. It's hard to sustain drives when you're not completing passes consistently like that. Like, they just fall apart, and without big plays or stuff like that, you can't. He's not consistent enough with passing the ball to, go down the field and just have long sustained drives that way. So I'm concerned about Baltimore and that offense that looked explosive the first couple weeks that we haven't really seen since.
Yeah, it's been kind of questionable, and they did lose their number 1. J.K. Dobbins ended up going out, so they haven't had consistency at running back again this year, but they still got a little production from this game. They got Gus Edwards 66 yards, 2 touchdowns, so they were able to maybe put a band-aid on some of that, and I think Gus Edwards will be fine. But yeah, I mean, Kenyon Drake kind of chips in here and there, but Mark Andrews didn't exactly have anything going on. He only had 2 targets, which is kind of crazy to me that your number 1 guy from a receiving standpoint didn't get much get many looks today, which is crazy. Rashad Bateman was the one that got more targets than anybody else in this Baltimore Ravens offense. So but yeah, Browns are they make it tough for teams. Over the last couple weeks, they've made it tough for not only the Ravens, they made it tough for, the Chargers a couple weeks ago. They had a 23-20 game against the Falcons. So the Browns will play you close. They just don't win very much when they comes down to it.
Browns will brown. Just in the right moment. So, and it's hard to cheer for him this year. And, we're actually not that far away, Chris, from Deshaun Watson and having to talk about that again.
That's going to be
like a month and a half. I know. It's the worst.
Let's see. What else do we have in the chat on this game? What happened to Mark Andrews? He got a whopping 0.4 fantasy points. That's what I say. He only got targeted twice this whole game. Twice. Which is, when you're that number one option for your quarterback, that's your like safety blanket, and you only get 2 targets, either the Browns did a very good job at taking him away, or they didn't get him involved enough. It didn't really make sense to me when I saw that in the box score. Ravens tried to blow another game, but Jacoby said, no, not today. Baltimore, you win. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. What would you say Rashad Bateman is the master of his work?
Would you say Rashad Bateman is the master of his work?
No. Nah. Meh. Lions and Patriots. Here we go. This one, hey.
Lions and who? I botched that. Just ignore that. Just ignore that.
I was wondering. I was like, wait a minute. Is this?
Don't look at that, guys. I was trying to put these together before my Vegas trip. Okay.
Hey, Scott. He played a lot of golf this week. Let's just say Lions and Cowboys.
There's a lot of Cowboy stuff there as well.
Wait a minute. I mean, I just read them, and then I looked over. I saw Dak, and I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. So Cowboys. This is the Cowboys game. In case you guys are wondering, guys. Cooper Rush did not play in this game, and the Cowboys got a 24-6 victory over the Lions. Now, I know Chairman's Lions haven't exactly been like they started out the season scoring a ton of points, but not lately. This was a comeback game for Dak. Dak looked a little rusty at times in this one, but he was fine. He managed. He got the game to a manageable lead, and the defense did what it had to do. That's the thing with a good defense. You can manage games and be, effective. And, that's kind of what Dak did in this one. So, looking at the box score of this one, Dak Prescott, 19 for 25, 270 yards, 207 yards, and 1 touchdown. Like, a first game back after missing as much time as Dak has missed, that's a decent stat line for a guy that's just getting thrown back into the mix week 7. So, you'll take that if you're Dallas. You don't need superstar, 4 touchdown games, when your defense is this good. So Dak can limit some of those, expectations a little bit, knowing that he's got a safety blanket with his defense and knowing he can have time to ramp up. But Pollard, 83 yards on the ground, 12 carries. CeeDee Lamb, 70 yards receiving. On the other side, Jared Goff threw to the other team twice and just couldn't get anything rolling offensively. Only 6 points scored in this one by 2 field goals in the first, and they were shut out in the second half. Lions dropped to 1-5. I'm sorry. Hey, welcome in, Pepper Cat. What's up, Pepper Cat?
Pepper Cat 700.
They call me Pepper Cat. Welcome in. Hope you're having a great night. Who's your team and where are you from? We'd like to get to know you a little bit. And so I felt like this was a good get back right game for Dak and for the Dallas Cowboys.
Listen, Dallas did exactly what I said they should do. They should run the same offense they ran with Cooper Rush when Dak gets back. Don't put things on Dak's shoulders. Let him manage games. And then if you need a situation where all of a sudden maybe a week where your defense isn't dominating like it has been and you need Dak to go to old Dak and try and sling the ball around and force throws and throw deep and things like that, great. He's a better option to do that than Cooper Rush is or will ever be. But he did a great job of managing this game. 19 to 25, as you talked about, 8.5 yards practically per attempt, which is totally perfect. He didn't get asked to do a ton, and he basically gave what the defense provided for him there. So I thought it was a good return. Get the Cowboys out, get an easy win against Detroit. Obviously it was close for a stretch there. In fact, Detroit was winning at halftime, but that's why we play two halves reckoning. And Dallas poured it on at the end. There were some turnovers at the end that set them up quite nicely, but they had the run game going. They handed it off 12 times to Pollard, 15 times to Zeke, getting a couple touchdowns on the ground with Zeke. So it's exactly what Dallas should be doing. They're not that explosive offense that we saw 2 years ago. They need to rely on their defense and play, ball control, game management, safe and smart on offense.
Peppercat, let's go. What's up? Yeah. So also history is made. Stephon Diggs for Dallas. 17 career interceptions, tied for most in the NFL since he entered the league in 2020. Those picks have come in his first 35 games, giving him the second most for a player in the Super Bowl era behind former Cowboys quarterback Everson Walls, tied Walls' club record of 11 picks last season. So he's doing some things on, like I said, their defense is keeping him in games. You don't need to go crazy and rush him and make him force in more than he needs to, because realistically, your defense is going to keep, this game manageable, so you don't have to put up 4 touchdowns to stay in a game, right? So that's a big addition here for Dallas to get Dak back. I know all you Cooper Rush people, all about Cooper. Dak's going to be the guy that's going to get you over the hump if anybody on this roster, quarterback wise. So there you go.
You might have said, yeah.
Oh, did I say Trayvon? My bad, Trayvon. There's too many Diggses out there in the NFL.
I think there's just two.
And they happen to be related, so go figure. All right, can we have some fun? Sorry, Milwaukee's. Sorry. We're gonna have some.
Yeah! Let's go!
The Green Bay Packers. There's two low numbers here, or low points in the season for a couple teams and a couple players. One of which is in this one. The lowly Commanders find a way to beat the Green Bay Packers in this one, and the score doesn't tell you how this game really went. This game wasn't really much of anything early on, just to give you guys a heads up. Aaron Rodgers was struggling. They lose to the Commanders, falling 3-4 on the season. The Packers went without a third down conversion for the first time since 1999, week 6 at Denver. Not even a third down conversion. This was absolutely just a head scratcher game. Aaron Rodgers, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns. They had 14 points going into halftime, 14-10 going into halftime. Green Bay led this one, but shut out in the third quarter and just fell flat. They just couldn't get anything rolling against the Washington Commanders. End up losing. I don't know, Scotty. Aaron Rodgers, his mentality on this season has totally shifted. They've lost games to the Commanders, the Jets, and the Giants in back-to-back weeks. Now, I know the Jets and the Giants are winning teams at the moment, but it's a tough pill to swallow to lose to those 3 teams back-to-back, 3-game losing streak. Aaron Rodgers is not in a happy place.
No, this offense is not clicking in any capacity. The defense, quite frankly, should be playing better than it is. They literally got manhandled out there by Taylor Heineke in Washington. No disrespect to Taylor Heineke. He's had some moments in relief and played, pretty much all last season as the starter, but he's not someone that, Green Bay should be dominating them defensively. They did get a pick 6, so even one of the scores for the Packers was on an interception return for a touchdown. Yeah, and then they got a late touchdown. Green Bay did it, sort of make it look closer than it was, and ended up just not having enough. So where do you go from here? I know it was years ago where I think Aaron Rodgers in a press conference was kind of like RELAX, right? Chris, he's like, just relax.
Just relax.
He doesn't look relaxed. He doesn't look relaxed out there. He looks so annoyed with every time it's an incomplete pass. He's so annoyed with the receiver he threw it to. It could have been 8 yards away from the guy, and he would just be like, "You obviously ran the wrong route," or "How do you not hold on to this?" The good news is nobody in the NFC wants to separate themselves, Chris. So that's, the one good piece of this for you. But if you're a Packers fan, like, the NFC's kind of mid right now, and at 3-4, there's plenty of time to figure this out. I just don't know. Every week you're like, all right, this is the week. They'll figure it out. They'll piece it together. And now we're 7 weeks in. And if anything, they're worse. They're worse.
And what's rough is they got a Sunday Night Football a week from today against the Buffalo Bills, which could be their 4th straight loss on the season, putting them to 3-5, which sounds pretty realistic that happens. So,
yeah,
it's not looking good for the Green Bay Packers from a schedule standpoint. Getting right next week, they have a tough matchup next week. By the way, there was a note in this one. Dan Snyder wasn't present, but his wife Tanya spoke at a pregame rally in this one. And, she was, video highlights from the last 90 years since the founding in 1930. And a big thing for Washington, probably fired them up, right? And then, oddly enough, during her speech, she made a reference to 7 decades of fantastic football. So, they've had some successful times, but the 7 decades of fantastic football... Oh, I don't know if fantastic football is the right way to put it, but
the fans feel that way so much that they were literally chanting "Sell the team" during the game today. The fans were in the stadium, Chris. So they want the Snyders to sell. I think we'll see. It doesn't sound like Dan Snyder's ever gonna do that. He's gonna have to be forced out. And there was some talk with Jim Irsay, who got interviewed and said, we might have enough ownership votes to kick him to the curb. So we'll see what happens there. But for the Washington Commanders, is this a big win? It's a nice win to get. You're still, not a team that can really compete down the road here. So somehow they're 3-4, and I feel like that's better than they even should be, Chris.
Football wife, and she yelled out, "Go Redskins!" No.
We've made some blunders tonight, but that's a little worse.
That takes the cake. That takes the cake, for sure. She said, "Hail to the Redskins." Yeah, that's probably not the best. That's probably not the best way to rally a team. But there was a question that Chad Double Dog: does Washington stay with Taylor Heineke, or do they go back to Wentz? And honestly, we've been so down on Wentz that, and Heineke did well, when he was called on previously with this team. I don't know. I kind of think you stick with Heineke. The thing is you invested in Wentz a little bit. So, what did they give up for Wentz?
It wasn't a ton at all, but it maybe like a 3rd round pick, or maybe it's based off of how much he plays, where it changes by round. I'm trying to remember. The answer is neither of these players. They should be starting Sam Howell. See what you got with this rookie quarterback that you drafted in the draft, because why even the minute Wentz got hurt, you should I wouldn't have started Heineke. Nothing against Heineke. Does he give you a better chance to win right now? Probably. But let's see what this rookie has and figure that out. But it doesn't look like they're going in that direction.
LMAO, wasn't long ago the other owners wanted to take a team away from Irsay.
Yeah. How the turntables.
or how the tables turn. One of the two.
No, well, that's never mind. Yeah. It's an Office thing.
Yeah.
Never mind.
All right, missed the reference. It's been a while since I've watched The Office. Texans at Raiders. So this one was one of yours / Speez's picks of the week. Raiders end up coming in winning 38-20 over the Texans here. And it took a little bit. The Raiders kind of pulled away at the end, but this was a little closer as well than the Raiders would have liked it to be with the Houston Texans. Texans hung around most of the game. Then there was a couple. Then you had a massive game on the ground for the Raiders, and you also had a pick six that kind of capped it all off at the very end of the game, which just, put away the Houston Texans. But in general, the Las Vegas Raiders were finding a way to win. Josh Jacobs, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Let's just say I might have been a little wrong that Josh McDaniels didn't want to utilize Josh Jacobs. I was low on Josh Jacobs going into the season, and all of a sudden he's just turning into the best running back in the NFL production wise for the Raiders. Like, all of a sudden Josh McDaniels is using him in everything and giving him as many touches as possible. He had 20 carries. So they found a way to get the ball moving, and it's opened things up. Derek Carr, 241 yards, 1 touchdown, 21-27 throwing, and Devontae Adams only 8 receptions, 95 yards. So Davis Mills contributed 2 interceptions to the Raiders, one of which was a pick six. Scotty, we don't have to spend too much time on this one. I think both these teams are kind of struggling. 2-4 Raiders, 1-4 and 1 Houston Texans. We don't have a lot of high hopes for either of these teams, but the Raiders are a little bit better from a roster standpoint at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually not even bearing the Raiders yet. I mean, they had a rough stretch and a tough schedule to start, but they have some winnable games coming up where they can get back into this. I mean, they certainly feel like a team that could still climb their way back and get in the mix in this AFC, where, again, really across the NFL, there's, not a lot of teams that are just dominating. It's a lot of kind of middle of the pack teams that, battle out every week, and all these close games where we're not seeing the upper echelon of teams that, a group of them. It's a smaller group this year, Chris. It's a much smaller group. We can call it parity or just somewhat bad football at times. I'll let you decide. But yeah, Josh Jacobs has been a fascinating story. The dude, as a rookie, was phenomenal. The next couple years really struggled to get his footing, couldn't repeat that at all, and then he just comes out and is dominating this year. They're dominating on the ground against every team they're playing. I think Josh Jacobs, is he leading the NFL in rushing? I think he is, which I would not have put that on my bingo card at the beginning of the year. So STG, he's about to get paid. Whoever pays him is making a mistake. Nothing against Josh Jacobs, but what's my rule, Chris? You just don't pay big money to a running back.
You don't.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I feel, the Texans, Chris, aren't having any expectations this year and aren't very good, but I think in every single one of their games, they've been within, they either had the lead, tied, or within 3 in the fourth quarter of every game. They were winning going to the fourth quarter of this game, Chris. Yeah, it was 2017.
Yep, they were up 3. Yep.
Yeah, and did their fourth quarter move that they tend to do. So if the Texans would be like 5-1, 6-1 right now, or I think they've had a bye. 5-1 if they could just not have to play that last quarter. So that'll be a growing process there with the young Texans team of learning how to win. Raiders had to get this one it absolutely buried if they moved to 1-6 or 7 or whatever that is. They had a bye week as well. So yeah, not an exciting game in the sense of like, are either of these teams great? No, but I think the Raiders, I'm not counting them out. They can get back in the playoff picture, in my opinion, for sure.
Texans host Tennessee next Sunday. Raiders visit the New Orleans Saints next Sunday. So couple, you got division matchup with the Texans, Tennessee. We don't know what we're ever getting with the Tennessee team. And then New Orleans, it's kind of a similar situation too. Like, that's the thing. Like, no teams really, we keep talking about these mediocre matchups of like teams that are kind of something, but kind of not. And then who shows up? It's like every week we're getting these kind of matchups. It's kind of crazy. But, here are 2 teams. Vegas is trying to stay alive, and they did a little bit of that today with the Texans. So next up, speaking of the Titans and Colts in probably not the most exciting game of the week, to say the least. I don't know if I spent any time watching this game, but I caught up on it, the highlights and different things. Titans end up winning this one, obviously 19-10. Colts still struggling. Colts are kind of who we thought they were after their slow start. They're not. Matt Ryan is just not it. And people, fire Frank Reich. Yeah, people are starting to get upset in Indy about what's going on. Tannehill suffered an ankle injury. I did see that as well. So, depending on, how things play out with the Tennessee Titans, if they start losing some games, you might start hearing some people chatting about maybe getting the young kid behind Tannehill some reps. But I think you're still a little bit away from that. I think Tannehill's will be fine for now. However, these are two teams that, don't strike me as the most exciting teams in the league to watch, Scotty.
Yeah, I saw a tweet today, Chris, actually, that was going on during this game of the AFC actually still has two teams that get a bye in the first round of the playoffs, because you have the number 1 seed that gets a bye and the number 2 seed that will maybe get to play, or there's two, maybe not the 2 seed, but whoever gets to play the AFC South winner gets a bye as well in the playoffs for the AFC, because it's not great right now. The Titans have, it's weird. They've won 4 straight games, I believe, after starting 0-2, but do they look remotely as good as, prior seasons, when they were the 1 seed last year and even made the AFC Championship run a couple years ago? They don't scare you on offense. Their defense is pretty good, but they're also, they've played this bad Colts. They beat the Colts twice, who the offensively are not clicking whatsoever. They beat the Commanders in a close game. They've won some close ones. They lost by 1 million to the Bills in week 2. I just don't think they're a contender, even with the 4-2 record. These teams don't excite me.
Titans also have beaten the Colts 5 straight and 6 of the past 7. This was just the 4th sweep of the Colts since becoming division rivals in 2002. So, if you're looking at these two teams, Tennessee's definitely the more dynamic team of these two offensively. And that's not, again, saying much, but still. So you get the win here, 19-10, and move on to next week. Next week, you have the Colts, who host Washington, and Titans visit Houston, as mentioned. So there you go. Next up, we have your boys, Chiefs and Niners. Now, this game, I kind of anticipated the Chiefs to win this game. I didn't think it would be 44-23. This game started out, pretty close initially, and then as the game went on, I think it just started unraveling and it got out of hand fairly quickly. Your boys get a big win, especially with all the other teams in the AFC West. Outside of you got the Broncos losing, you had the Chargers losing, the Raiders got a win, but they're in last place. And, their Chiefs are being able to separate themselves a little bit more from the rest of the division in this win against a good San Francisco team. San Francisco, meanwhile, on the other hand, traded for Christian McCaffrey before this game. So Christian McCaffrey is a new San Francisco. I want to get your thoughts on the trade. It's a lot to give up for a guy. If you don't win this year, Scotty, with Christian McCaffrey, I feel like the San Francisco 49ers are in a bit of a pickle with what they gave up and how much they're paying a running back. We've talked about high-paid running backs. Initially, this elevates them a ton from a playmaking standpoint, what they can do offensively. But if it doesn't work out, he's going to be hanging over this franchise from a lot of different standpoints of assets and money that you got to pay him. But regardless, Chiefs end up coming out with a win. 3 touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes and 2 touchdowns and an interception for Jimmy G. So they take it to San Francisco. In San Francisco, they drop to 3-4. Chiefs improve to 5-2.
Christian Chris, I was honestly nervous about this game a little bit. I didn't know. I think San Francisco plays really good at home, especially. They usually beat up on teams, in San Fran at Levi Stadium. They're getting the momentum. Not that McCaffrey was. I was like worried that he was going to be a big, game changer in this one. Although they did hand him the ball and he was prolific when he got the ball. But just the, kind of the mood and the excitement around the team and wanting to play hard to get that, because they're all in, Chris. I mean, with this trade. Yep. You don't have picks left anymore. Like the draft, you can just say, "I'll see you next year." Draft, because they already. I mean, let's keep in mind they did that Trey Lance deal a couple years ago that gave up a ton of capital in the draft. So they are trying to copy the Rams model, pretty much at this point, and we'll see if it works. They came in as the number one defense in the NFL. I don't think they're going to leave with that stigma. Chris, the Chiefs have actually played, I believe, at least the number one defense in the NFL at the time 3 times a season. And guess what? Then they play someone else that's the number one defense because they beat up on the team that was the number one defense before. So, because they do lead the league in points per game. So, and breaking news, by the way, real quick though, breaking. The Houston Astros have in fact swept the Yankees and are in the World Series.
Wow.
Yankees get swept. Wow. And Astros are on a perfect run right now. Have not lost a game.
Does that worry you if you're a perfect run going up against a Phillies team who's like hot at the right time? Like, I mean, the pressure of like, the perfect run there's a little pressure that comes associated with that, but I think like the Astros are good enough, but at the same time it's a little bit to throw into the mix there.
Maybe, but then you lose one game and then that pressure is gone because then you're not worried about that anymore. So I don't think so. I think they'll be fine. I think it should be hopefully it'll be a good series. You don't want a sweep or even 5. Let's hope it goes 6, but Houston kind of looks like a juggernaut right now. I know Philly's playing well, but and beating 2 really good teams, but Houston's kind of a monster right now.
Crazy. So there you go. The World Series is all set up. Astros and Phillies. That'll be a fun one. I kind of, we have a lot of Philly fans in the chat. I wouldn't hate seeing the Phillies win. I want to see the apocalypse happen in Philadelphia one more time. Let's see it. Why not? All right. So yeah, Chiefs, 49ers. Again, I think that the 49ers still have a good team. Moving them forward, they have a great roster. They added more to it. So, Peppercat, Pirate fan. There we go, Peppercat. Welcome. Glad you're here. And then I'm guessing Pirates and Steelers. I would assume. So, hey, it's great to have you in. Thank you so much for popping in. But I still like the 49ers. I think they'll improve. Shanahan is going to have a field day incorporating Christian McCaffrey into some plays with this offense. So as they get healthier, I think that they're going to be in a better place, but it's just going to take a little bit of time. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, they're the best team in the AFC, if not the second best team behind the Buffalo Bills. There's 2 top front runners in the AFC. So this just solidifies that the Chiefs are right where we thought they would be, and right, in the power rankings grand scheme of things at the top. So 44-23 against a good 49ers team at their stadium, at Levi's. I like KC a lot. Yeah.
Playing good. I mean, they got down 10-0 to start, and then Mahomes just went for 423 on 34 attempts. So it's not like he was throwing 55 times. 423 against the number 1 defense. I mean, he was slinging around, and all of a sudden, Juju's starting to work himself in. He's had a back-to-back 2 good games and went for $124 today. They could still get better in their run game, but it looks a little bit better. They started Pacheco, although, they kind of split carries with him and Clyde and McKinnon as they always do. So it really was irrelevant who was the starter.
who had a big game, especially football wife, and yeah, this is a big one. Mecole Hardman, your boy, 2 touchdowns.
He did.
2 touchdowns rushing, a touchdown receiving. He was just stacking scores this game.
He did have a nice game. He did.
Whoopsies.
So there you go. Niners should just call him daddy. Yeah, you can call him daddy. Yeah, Mecole. I call him Mecole. I call him Mecole. Mecole?
That's Rex getting a little picky.
He's getting a little picky. Juju, the reason I won my work league, says JK.
Yep. He went off.
Okay, here we go. Cardinals at Cardinals and Saints here.
This was the Thursday night.
Thursday night, 1 million points were scored. Cardinals get back on track here. I like the Cardinals to win this game in this spot. I think they just, you had the comeback game. You had for what's his name? After
Hopkins.
Hopkins for the first 6 games of the year. He had a whole trailer video too, by the way. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. Did you see that?
I did not see his trailer video.
He had a 1.5 minute trailer where he was I don't know. He did a production on that thing. But I mean, it looked nice.
Dude, you're not coming back from an injury. You're coming back because they caught you cheating. So maybe don't make a trailer about it.
Yeah, it was a little much. It was a little much, but he was a whole production video, and I don't even think it was a team related thing. It was just nonetheless, he came out 10 receptions, 103 yards on 14 targets. Kyler Murray was literally only targeting one dude. The rest of his team, so 14 targets total for Hopkins and 29 total for the rest of his team. So, I mean,
15 for his team.
It was
14 for him, 15 for everyone else.
It was just he just went ham throwing to DeAndre Hopkins all game long. So if you had DeAndre Hopkins in fantasy, good job. And there was a little squabble, right? A little squabble with Kingsbury and Kyler Murray not seeing eye to eye. I don't know if you guys saw that as well. There's a little bit of tension going on and this could spell the end for Kingsbury if things keep going weird with Kyler Murray. He's not happy, but hey, they won the game against a New Orleans team. New Orleans drops to 2-5. Andy Dalton was absolutely just he was throwing touchdowns to his team. He was throwing picks to the other. He was throwing to everybody on the field. It doesn't matter what jersey you were wearing. He was throwing to everybody, and that was just part of it. So the Saints just struggled offensively. Turning over the ball was a big thing. Arizona gets the win.
Yeah, listen, I'm not high on either of these teams. The Saints moved to 2-5 now and are just struggling to get any traction under the new coaching regime. And obviously the quarterback play hasn't been great with Jameis. And now, 2 pick sixes. It's good to be Kyler Murray and the Cardinals when your defense can provide you 2 touchdowns in the first half to give you a little bit of a cushion where then maybe you can loosen up and play a little loose because they haven't had those opportunities. The Cardinals, I think, they're 3-4, which is miraculous to me because they feel like they should be 1-6. I don't even think they were the better team in this game, Chris. I think the Saints played better minus those 2 pivotal plays. So moving forward, I'm still not high on the Cardinals. I thought, getting Hopkins back, that would help. And obviously it helps, but if he's going to force it into Hopkins all the time, 100 yards on 14 targets isn't exactly blowing up stats for Hopkins. So we'll see what happens. But moving forward, I think both these teams are in trouble.
Yeah, it's not. I there's nothing to get excited about either of these teams because there's flaws on both. But did you happen to see the Twitter post of one of the pick sixes where Andy Dalton throws his arms up, and then in the background there's diving? The pick six is diving. Did you see that?
No.
Oh, can I? All right, guys. I gotta pull it up. I know you guys are gonna enjoy this too. I'll just pull it up real quick and then we'll move on to the next game. But here we go here. This is it right here. Let me pull this down a little bit. In the end, so you see Andy Dalton throw the pick six, and you see the dive in the background, and it is absolutely incredible. And it's one of the best, probably, highlights of this game. Almost. Here, I'll zoom it in for you guys. Pick six, whee, just diving through the end zone. It just makes this play that much more exciting.
Pretty big dive.
That's a pretty big dive. Yeah. I feel like, man, I would get injured on something. Maybe I'm too old to. I'm like, get off your lawn guy. I'm like, don't dive like that. You're gonna get yourself hurt. Saw this video. My heart will go on playing. Hilarious. Yeah, from Titanic. It's great. You time it perfectly, and it's incredible. 2 pick sixes in a minute and 3. He's throwing touchdowns to everybody on that team. He's picking up where Jameis Winston usually leaves off normally. I like seeing the squabble. It's the first time I've seen Kyler look like he cares. That's what I would love to see in Denver. Can I see a squabble in Denver? At least get fired up about something. Just saying. Giants, Jags. Giants end up getting the win here. Again, keep rolling. The Giants, man, they just keep rattling off wins. One after another.
A dominant team.
Like, they just keep doing it. And we always keep saying, but let them see what they do next week, and then the next week, and then they keep proving us wrong, and then we're like, shit, do we got to start believing in this team? And nothing against the Giants. I'm just like, I still am struggling to buy in, and they keep kind of proving me wrong here. And oh my goodness, I don't know what to think at this point. They're 6-1. I'm sorry. They beat the Jags, dropped to 2-5 on the other end. Daniel Jones, 1 touchdown throw, also a touchdown run. Saquon, 110 yards. He's obviously just doing Saquon things all season long, so he's solid. On the other side, Travis Etienne, 1 touchdown and 114 yards, with Trevor Lawrence going 310 yards, no touchdowns or anything on that end. 43 attempts, 22 completions. So the Giants continue to control the ball here with Saquon, and I mean, they don't get a lot of production from their wide receivers, but they're still controlling the ball. Saquon's the primary source of that offense, and they kind of open things up for the passing game with Saquon, and it seems to be working. Dable's doing a good job coaching this team, and they're 6-1, believe it or not.
I'm with you, Chairman. I can't get myself to get too excited about this Giants team either. Listen, and the only thing I can come up with is the Giants have played 7 games this year, and they've had 7 one-possession games. All 7 have been within one score. Okay, and they're 6-1 in those. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable to continue to go 6-1 in those situations. They did come back in this one. They were down heading into the fourth quarter, put up 10 points in the fourth to make a little comeback. Obviously, they have the running game. The defense is playing phenomenal, and frankly, their schedule is not difficult. So, is this a playoff team at this point? It's hard to say they won't be a playoff team. I just don't know once you get in the playoffs what they're going to be able to do. But you look at their schedule: Seahawks, Texans, Lions, Commanders twice, Colts. They do have the Eagles twice, and the Vikings and the Cowboys, but that's about it. So this is a team that's going to win at least 10 games, and maybe even more. So
what?
Yeah, the game also ended with the Jags at the 1-yard line. I mean, it's just everything is coming down to the wire, and they are winning these games. So credit to them, they're winning them. I just don't think it's sustainable moving forward. Congrats, though. Giants fans have been through some pain since, in the last at least 5 or 6 years. I mean, I don't feel that bad because they won a couple Super Bowls with Eli, but...
So, couple big things to note. We mentioned that the offensive line is a big piece of what Saquon's been able to, it all works in tandem, right? Well, the Giants did lose 2 of their starting offensive linemen, including right tackle Evan Neal, and then also rookie tight end Daniel Bellinger, who had that weird eye. He got poked in the eye inadvertently by Devin Lloyd in the second quarter, bloody, and he had to get taken out. He was carted off, actually, because it was so bad. And it was like super weird. Like, eye injuries creep me out. So, yeah, hopefully he's fine. But, I mean, if any of these two players have time away and they can't get back into the... I mean, that could be an issue for them offensively. That offensive line has been playing pretty well. So we'll see if that ends up playing a factor moving forward in the Giants' scheme of running the football as much as they do and protecting Daniel Jones as much as they do. So we'll see. We'll see. The Jags end up, they dropped to 2-5. Both these teams play... so Giants play Seattle next Sunday. So that'll be an interesting one because Seattle is obviously putting up points on like everybody. Geno Smith is just scoring left and right. And that could be a fun one. Seattle's playing good ball. They have a couple injuries we'll talk about here in a little bit. Jaguars.
I think Seattle wins that game, STG. I'm not saying it's going to be... first of all, the Giants won't walk through anybody, but I think the Seattle wins that game.
I'm more trusting in Seattle than I am a lot of the teams that we've covered already on some of these games. It's kind of crazy to think that, like, going into the season. But Jaguars play a home game against Denver in London on Sunday. So they'll have...
at least they won't get booed by their home crowd people leaving...
Yeah,
at the start of overtime when it's 3-3.
Exactly.
Headed into overtime.
It'll be great. People will stick around a little longer. It'll be nice. I'll take it. All right, Jets. Speaking of Jets and Broncos, we have that here. Real quick, Seahawks won't get walked over. Yep, that looked nasty. Division leading Seahawks, says STG. Oof. Did Lloyd have acrylics on or something? Says Cuban. I'm with you, Scotty. I'm leaning Seattle too. How far do you think this Giants team actually gets? I think they maybe get a playoff bid. And maybe they struggle. Well, the NFC is so weak, though. That's the thing I keep coming back to with the Giants is like the NFC is weak. Depending on their matchup, I think it's going to be difficult. Maybe they get.
I'd give them like a 35% chance of winning a game, and they won't win more than one.
I think I'm with you, McNuggets. One and done. I struggle. I struggle to see them. I struggle to see them like dominate a team in the playoffs, but we'll see. Jets Broncos. This was another nightmare game that I had to sit through again this week, and there was a little bit of clarity in this for me, and part of it was we don't have a quarterback on this roster that can get it done, regardless of Wilson or Rippon. I was trying to figure out whether or not this was like you ever go to science class and you I know you're a big science guy, Scotty, right?
Love science.
You love science. You think science?
I don't even believe in it, but sure.
It's only a super important subject in school. But you test different probabilities and hypotheses, right? And my hypothesis in this game was, is Rippon going to let it loose downfield? And if so, what's that going to look like? Can he do it? Because if he can do it and Russ can't, then the offense, like the play calling, everything else, what's coming down from head coach Hackett, because he's the one calling the plays, then we can kind of distinguish what's what. Knowing that this game came down to, again, only a couple long plays, and most of it was to the sidelines and short plays. It's the play calling for me, Scotty. I think it's starting to become realization for me that our play calling and our coaching is limiting to some extent what we're doing offensively and what we have in the game plan. Because this was the same kind of game plan we saw from Russ. And I know Rippon can throw it downfield. He showed that a couple times. But we don't end up continuing to throw the ball downfield that much. So now it's the play calling thing for me. And so for me as a Broncos fan, I struggle to figure out when enough is enough and we start getting somebody in here that really can change the way we call plays and get this. Now, is there limited? Rippon's not an all-star, and Russ is on the downside of his career, so I get that. But the play calling's not helping, and I think that was evident in this game. The Broncos defense, on the other hand, played absolutely stellar. They gave up 16 points here, but they played very, very well. So, they still have a top 5 defense in the league. I think they were top 3 coming into this game. And I really am encouraged about the defensive coordinator and the defense that we're running. We just need to put up points. If we were able to score 18 points in each of our games, we would be 6-2, Scotty. Or 6.
That's impossible.
Or no, we would only have lost 2 games at this point.
5-2, got it. 5-2.
We would only be 5. We'd be 5-2 if we could score 18 points, Scotty.
I mean, if the other teams could have scored more than 18, then they would have beat you though too, right?
I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, because I was watching the Chiefs game. I didn't watch this game at all for the most part, Chris. I just kept checking the score and was like, yeah, that sounds about right. I was a little. I didn't know how to feel about going into this game as someone that doesn't like the Broncos at all, Chris. Part of me would have found it hilarious if Rippon just went out there and absolutely, by far, had the best QB performance for a Denver quarterback this season. Because then, what do you do? You're not gonna stay with Rippon, but then everyone's gonna lose their mind. That's fans, but you gotta go back to Russ because it's Russ, and you're paying him all this money. It would have been entertaining for me, but at the same time, I'm totally fine with just realizing that your backup's not any good either. Of course, there's play calling issues. Of course, there's coaching issues. Very much could be a one and done. So Scott is saying Raiders make the playoffs, but the Broncos have no chance. I'm saying the Raiders have a chance at making the playoffs, and yes, I'm saying the Broncos have no chance at making the playoffs. You're averaging 14 points per game on offense. I don't care how good your defense is. You're not going to be able to hang. You already lost to the Raiders in one head-to-head, so they're technically ahead of you in the standings already. But I just don't see how this turns around for the Broncos. I just don't. And eventually, the two sides are going to start, like the defense is going to start, if it hasn't happened yet, get really, really annoyed, and then you kind of have like a divided locker room.
Locker room. Yeah, and I think for me, SDG says this is a one and done coach. Yeah, I at this point, I think it's evident that Hackett's probably going to be gone sooner rather than later. Everyone is excited. He wants to be everyone's best friend. We need to get people fired up, and he's not the guy to do that. He's a guy to be everyone's best friend, and that's not what puts points on the board. We need a guy that's going to come in. Obviously, his offensive play calling and his game plans that he comes into week to week isn't up to par. Like we're not getting it done. Scoring 10 points, 14 points, 9 points, it's not getting it done. You need to be able to put points on the board, take advantage of a good defense, and we're not doing that. We're not doing that with how we're prepping for these teams. So it's unfortunate. The Jets, on the other hand, the Jets keep winning too. Both teams in New York / Jersey, whatever you want to say, are playing very well. So at this point, 5-2. The biggest issue here, Breece Hall was hurt, 62-yard touchdown, at one point, but he did end up getting an injury, which is feared to be an ACL, which you hate to see. Obviously, you want young kids in their rookie season to be just balling out, and you want to root for those kids. We talked a lot about him in the draft, knowing he was going to be potentially a breakout player, and this could be an end of his season, which is super unfortunate. But the Jets keep rolling, though. Zach Wilson didn't exactly look incredible here. 121 yards, no touchdowns. And we expected him to struggle against the Broncos defense, who was after him all day long. But this was a punt fest as well. Not an exciting game by any means. Every Bronco game is a muddied up, just scrappy, defensive, game, and we end up losing because we can't score. So that's just us in a nutshell. There you have it. STG, they will get annoyed. Seattle's defense would get so mad at Russ for not sustaining drives. That's a massive loss for the Jets. I feel sorry for Hackett. His pressure last week, his voice was high and he seemed defensive. Today, he said he has been crying in the hallway after the game. Is that real? Was he crying?
Is it real?
Is that real?
That's not a good look. That's not a good look.
Cuban, I hope this is one of your zingers. I hope this is one of those hey-oh. Because if it's not, no joke. Oh my God.
You can't. There's no crying in football, Chris. There's no crying in football.
So he doesn't know how to call
plays. This dude may not want to come back. He might resign. Frankly, if he's crying in the locker room or in the hallway after the game, like, he's clearly stressed out. He's frustrated.
Dude.
I mean,
so
he might just be like, I'm not cut out for this.
He might resign before he gets fired. What? Benjamin Albright of KOA, and that, I mean, KOA. Ben
Albright's. I know who he is. He's tied into things for sure. So I don't think he'd make that up. He's usually kind of defensive of the Broncos. So, not a great look.
Ugh. Crying in the hallway after the game, like, man, like, I don't know if he's not cut out for it, man. He's just not. And there you go.
Jets on the Jets end, we'll figure out. Jets play Patriots, Bills, Patriots next 3 games. So we'll figure out 3 division matchups for the Jets that they need to, at 5-2. I'm not expecting them to beat Buffalo, but they certainly can't afford to get swept by New England either. They need to at least take one of those.
They'll split. I think they go 1-2 in the next 3. And they come back down to earth, in my opinion. I think that the Jets, Breece Hall was a big piece of what they do offensively. You take him out, they still have options, but that's a big blow. Are you saying
they do. They might have the defensive rookie of the year. Cortland Sutton today got lost in the sauce, Chris. He got lost in the sauce. Sauce Gardner has been an absolute stud at corner for the Jets.
He had a couple that he didn't get called for on some pulling some jerseys in the end zone, and there was some call. He gets a little handsy. Let's just say the referees may have let a couple that should have been called. They let him slide a little bit. Just throwing that out there. Are you saying he can't hack it? I'll show myself out. Hi-yo. All right, there you go. Seahawks and Chargers. Well, remember all that hype, Scotty, of the Chargers?
So hilarious.
It's so crazy to think that people were like, oh yeah, they're the second best team in all of football. Nonetheless, division leaders going into the season. Well, let's just say the Chargers are having trouble finding their way. And the Seahawks, Geno Smith keeps rolling. Geno Smith, that offense in Seattle, it's just clicking. They did lose potentially. I don't know if it was an ACL. I don't know if the Twitter doc came through and said it was an ACL, but they did have a big loss to DK Metcalf potentially for the season if it is an ACL. So that is going to take a blow. Kenneth Walker, though, is a stud. He was having a great game. He had they clocked him at like one of the fastest speeds of any player this season on a long play that they had from scrimmage. But yeah, the Chargers struggled to get anything rolling in this game, and you want to talk about a team that with a lot of expectations and disappointing teams. The Broncos are disappointing, the Colts are disappointing. It's weird to say that the Chargers, given the fact that the Chargers, for me, let's take a look at this real quick. They're 4-3, right? So they still have a winning record, but they don't strike me as that good of a team. Justin Herbert, 293, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Eckler, 31 yards, 1 touchdown.
On 55 attempts.
50, a million attempts. So
yeah,
he was just throwing the ball over. Get him some ice. Get him some ice for that shoulder, And they just couldn't get anything rolling here. They lose to the Seahawks 23-37. And this game felt like it was over way before. 17 points in the first quarter, 17-0 after one. Scotty.
Can we people gotta stop saying Justin Herbert. Like, there's takes out there where people are like, if I had to draft a quarterback, I would take Justin Herbert over Patrick Mahomes. Can we move on? Can people just be like, all right, that was fun to like throw that out there for a second, but he's not that dude right now. Like, you cannot, and I know you gave up 37 points, but you were down 17-0 early. You didn't inspire a lot of confidence moving forward. You only scored 9 points in the second half, so it's not like you were just lighting it up to get back in the game. This Chargers team's just, I know they got some injuries, just to keep people losing the left tackle. But there's just no excuse for what's going on there. The game today made no sense. Like, between that and the Jacksonville loss, both those at home, like, it doesn't make any sense how they can show out so poorly at times, and then other times they do look great. They look like they can compete with anybody at times, and then other games it's like they forgot that they had to play football today. And that's what it looked like today. Seattle, Chris, I mean, how wild is it that Seattle looks... we remember before week 1, everyone in Denver was like, well, Denver, there's no way we could lose to Seattle, right? Like, no way. Like, this is a rebuilding. They just sold their quarterback to you. And now, 4-3.
They're mowing teams down.
They look good doing it, too. It's not like they're winning. They're not necessarily winning ugly. They're putting points on the board. Geno Smith's playing well within himself. Kenneth Walker is an elite athlete and a big dude and is tough to bring down, and had 163 today. Like, we'll see on Metcalf. I think I read reports that it should be okay, and it won't be anything too serious, but we'll see the definitive thing on that. But obviously that would be a big loss for that offense without DK Metcalf. But Seattle keeps plugging away, getting wins. Yeah, this was a big one, because normally Seattle, obviously a very good home team, but tends to struggle on the road. But they took it to the Chargers today.
I mentioned Kenneth Walker reached a top speed of 22.09 miles per hour on his 74-yard touchdown run. That's the fastest max speed by a ball carrier this whole season. Walker is the first Seahawks rookie with 150 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in a game since Kurt Warner in 1983. There you go.
Yeah, Brandon Staley. Yeah, everyone loved Brandon Staley last year when he was being aggressive with these play calls, and all of a sudden they just look out coached every week these days. So he could be on the hot seat after only his second season as well. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah. Dennis Allen. A lot of teams shocking the hell out of everyone this season. Let's see. Tell the doctor you have a lead on some property about to become available. There you go, says Cuban. All right. So, yeah, this is a crazy one. Let's take a look at who these teams have coming up next. The Chargers. Give me 1 second while I pull it up.
Well, we know who Seattle has.
Yeah, Seattle has the Giants. Chargers have their bye week, so they have and then they travel to Atlanta on November 6th. So they have a little bit of time off, but I'm not gonna lie, that Atlanta game's not gonna be easy for them in Atlanta. Traveling, I mean, they have a week to prepare, so it's fine. But at the same time, like, I don't know. Atlanta's been a sneaky team too. I can see the Chargers going into Atlanta and maybe, like,
I mean, they can't stop the run. That's what the Atlanta's going to try and do offensively, is run the ball down their throat.
All right. We talked about a couple teams that are kind of rock bottom. I think this is by far the most rock bottom of any team that with high expectations in the league, and this is the Bucs. Tom Brady comes in, goes to the Carolina Panthers. They just traded Christian McCaffrey. They traded Robbie Anderson. They have an interim head coach. They have all sorts of things happening here that just scream, hey, we're just, punting on the season. This is not a get right spot for us. You got Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the leaders of this division, supposedly that is going to run away with it. And they failed to put up a touchdown in this. They failed to put up more than 3 points in this game against Carolina. Carolina wins this one 21-3. Tom Brady looks absolutely. There was a couple plays when he was done, and he was just like, man, what am I doing? Why did I come back out of retirement? What is happening in Tampa Bay, Scotty?
I mean, it's embarrassing, Chris. Like they got their field goal like relatively late in the game too. Like they did not score in the first half. They went punt, end of half, and then in the second half they went punt, downs, punt, field goal, downs. I mean, just epically poor against what I might have considered the worst team in football headed into today, Chris.
So, real quick, this is the second time the Bucs have been shut out in the first half this season. They got shut out week 2 against the Saints. The only other season Brady-led team has been shut out in the first half more times was 2020, 3 times that season. So, like... That was
the last year in New England, right? Or was that Tampa?
That was...
2020?
2020.
Oh, so that was still Tampa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Tampa. Okay.
So... I mean, this is not a good sign for Brady here, and they're just they can't do anything.
Yeah, and like everyone's like, well, I mean, the run game is just non-existent. You know, they have Evans and Godwin. Try to get Russell Gage involved a little bit, but it's not working. Brady's missing his boy Gronk, it seems like. Kyle Rudolph's not cutting it. Kate Otten's not cutting it. It's bad. Obviously, there's the running joke. I mean, that he left his marriage, jeopardized his marriage, put it on the line to come back for this. Obviously, he won't be back in Tampa next year. He may not be anywhere, but he's definitely not going to be back in Tampa. This marriage is also coming to an end. Code Yellow, spam it in the chat. Chris is going to take another quick Code Yellow. Cuban Benny, is Brady getting a divorce because he came out of retirement, or did he come out of retirement because he was about to get a divorce? He spent a quick month at home. I mean, that's true. I don't know. Like... Obviously, that month didn't go well, and he's like, I cannot be at home. And he came out and said, like, weird things this week about, during the season, his mind works where, like, he can't focus on his, kind of saying, like, he's not able to mentally focus on his family whatsoever. Like, he's so locked in and ingrained on the season itself, which is kind of sad to me. Like, yes, I understand you want to be the GOAT. This is important to you, but like, you got to put your family up there too. You got the kids and obviously your wife. Like, and if that's true and she stuck around as long as she did, that's a testament to her, because if you're providing nothing for half the year, that's pretty rough. Hey, Scotty, Chris didn't do a Code Yellow when you were gone. Maybe he likes Speeds more. Maybe. Probably. I'm fine with that. I don't have to be liked. STG, Tom always had the benefit of an elite offensive line. Dante Scarlecchia was the O-line coach for 95% of the time he played for New England. Yeah, and he had an elite one with Tampa. They've had some injuries and some retirement, and it doesn't look the same. He has to have a great offensive line in order to be successful, frankly. So it's not working. I don't know where they turn from here. It could end up getting really ugly out there.
Brady hasn't had a losing season this far into the season since 2002 New England Patriots. Brady has never been under 500 after 8 games. Things could change. So, looking forward, Bucks host the Ravens Thursday night. So, that's going to be an interesting one, right? So Ravens maybe get up early on the Bucks, and maybe the Bucks come back and make it a fourth quarter, right? Because that's what the Ravens do. And then the Falcons and the Panthers face off, as we mentioned already. So that's going to be the next matchup for Carolina. Carolina, again, shouldn't have high expectations, but they're going to be playing inspired ball, right? They don't really have anything else. They shipped off their best talent, and they have just a bunch of random coaches that didn't start the season.
They also shipped off their worst talent, and that was Matt Rule. So
yeah, true. Addition by subtraction, right there. So, yeah. So you're good there. Hey, Scotty, Chris didn't do a code yellow when you were gone. Maybe he likes Spees more.
I agreed with that. Or maybe you were just afraid to leave Spees alone on the stream.
I can't trust him to, no, I don't know. It's like leaving a guy, to babysit your kids, and you're just like, yeah, I don't know about that guy. The ridiculous part is the Bucks are still leading the division. The NFC South has taken a crappy division title from the NFC East. So, it's crazy. This division is a lot worse. We already thought this division was pretty bad, but now that the Bucks are bad too, this whole division is just in a rough place, just top to bottom.
If they wouldn't have wins except for they play each other. So somebody's got to win those.
Unless you tie, and then there's that too. So that's going to do it here for all of our recaps, guys. We will get all these recaps uploaded to YouTube this week. So in the next day or two, go back, check YouTube, !socials in the chat. There you go. So you can go follow us on all those platforms. By the way, going and liking our videos on YouTube helps us a ton. So make sure you guys, it helps spread the videos to a wider audience, which, the more people see our videos, the more people want to come in and hang out with us during our stream. So help us out. Go check out some of those videos that we have on there. We have our NBA preview that we did earlier on. We have the NHL preview. If you're into hockey, basketball, you're just joining us for the first time. So we upload all of those. Also, you can find us on all of our podcasts as well. Let me put that in there as boom. There's all our links. So you have no excuse to miss any content that we have pushing out there. So let's go. Give us a follow. But yeah. Check it out. We will appreciate it. Let's go to our best bets and check out to see how we're doing on that. We have Spees here who picked for you, Scotty, and I have to update mine. He went 3-1 this week.
Taking the photo.
Yeah, we got him hooked up. We took care of him. I dropped to 16-11 after that loss. Miami only won by 6, so of course, 1 point. That just.
That's why they do that.
That's why they do that. So there you have it. It's 7.
So I take the lead this week. Thanks, Spees.
Spees hooked you up with a 3-1 week. So there you go. You can't do much better than that. We will get back to our best bets of the week coming up this Wednesday. We're actually, combining our records, Scotty, we're not doing too bad this year. We're not doing bad at all.
No shame at all.
No, we're crushing, man. If you think about this, betting against the spread, what's the percentage that you 45% or what's the the standard if you're
50%? I don't know.
I think that it's
in order to make money, you need to be above 56%. I want to say
56. Yeah. So we're doing good. We're making some money. We're making some money here. All right. So
for sure.
Guys, so make sure you go check out all of those. We're going to have another round of previews coming up this Wednesday. We have all week 8 lining up. We have Sunday Night Football. We got Bills and Packers. So make sure you join us for that next weekend. We'll do bingo. We'll do all of it. We have a lot to break down with Aaron Rodgers and the Bills and, what these two teams really are. So we're going to be having a lot of fun with that a week from today.